Hello, everyone. The fact that I'm managing to link at all is a triumph of failing technological incompetence. Given that I'm the same age as the Spanish Civil War, almost, um, and to to try to cover the story of the Civil War and why we made the film in 10 to 15 minutes is a bit of a struggle, but I'll do my best and really appreciate your coming to see the film. And thank you to Counterfire and the festival for showing it. 1936, it was the years of the Depression. It was in Spain, there was a socialist government. The monarchy had been removed in 1931 when the left Popular Front government took power, and it was composed of socialists and communists, revolutionary socialists, and and anarchists, and they had a program that we would cherish today. They attacked the rights of the big landowners. They minimized the power of the owners of industry, collectives, and common ownership was on the move. Occupations took over. The opposition developed from royalists, from the Catholic Church, from big business, of course, from the big landowners, and the obviously what we used to call, we wouldn't say call them now, but used to call backward elements. That is, people who hung to the old ways despite their exploitation. And that's opposition developed. But in 1936, there was another election, and the Popular Front won again. So what they were doing was clearly popular. And at that point, the ruling class said enough, and they decided to act. And as Shabir said, fascism was on the rise. Well, it was more than on the rise; it was with us. Germany was under Hitler, Italy, Mussolini, and they were powerful axis in the centre of Europe. And they supported the uprising by Franco, General Franco, who was the leader of the fascist movement, who was out in the Canaries somewhere. They supported the fascists. Britain, France, and the USA said, this is a civil war. We can't sell weapons. We can't intervene. In the meantime, quietly giving support to the fascists. Then 1936, when they knew what fascism meant, when they knew the racism, when they knew the appalling oppression that lay at the heart of fascism, they gave tacit support to the fascists. And we heard when we were doing the research that the Franco himself was had a Royal Aircraft plane to get him into Spain. That's research from 30 odd years ago. I'd have to check it now, but it rings true. Trade was intervened so that it didn't trade going to the government in Spain was minimized, and say no weapons. They wouldn't sell weapons. The Russia and Mexico were the only countries who supported, and Russia sold weapons, but my God, they took a price. They cleaned out the gold from the Spanish, wherever they keep them. The wealth of Spain went to Russia, and there were the international brigades who went to support the Republic, but others went to support the fascists because the church recruited. So that was how the parties set up, and the events were were very took over to begin with. The government army was people went on the streets. It was a people's militia, citizen army. No uniforms. They just took the weapons they had to confront the fascists. And the first year wasn't too bad. They defended Madrid well, but then the following 2 years, the fascists gradually took over, and the fascists won, and well, Franco became the dictator, and he carried on until 1975, till he finally died, and the monarchy came back. The monarchy came back. The one other big issue at the time, as well as the problem of no international support of substance, apart from Russia, was the splits and the split in the left. And it was a split that went to the political heart of left politics, and it reappears time and again. And every time there's a major conflict and the left oppose it, there will be two sides. And it was very simply explained in this in the Civil War. There were those like the Social Democrats and the Communist Party who said we have to beat the fascists, and the social revolution can wait. Be the fascists first. The anarchists and the revolutionary socialists said no. We have to. Beating the fascists is the people. If we show the people that they have reason to support us, then they will join us. If they see they will own the land, they will have the big industries in collectives and cooperatives. Then they will support us. Then because it is them. They are fighting for themselves, for their own interests, for their own better lives, and that split was at the heart of the heart of the movement in Spain, and it was devastating, and there were direct conflicts between the two sides, and it is the story we tell. And then, what are the lessons can we learn? I think, well, they're very simple. And again, I didn't time to talk much about them, but they're very simple. If we get close to power and we are serious in changing society in favor of the working class, they will come for us. They will come for us. And we've seen it in two examples. First is the miners' strike, when the miners was unlikely to win, I guess, but nevertheless, they had a huge popular support, not from the official trade unions and certainly not from the Labour Party leadership, who preferred Thatcher to the miners' victory. But the miners were strong, and there was a sense, well, maybe they can win. And the full might of the weight of the state was thrown against them. And the other time, quite recently, was when Jeremy Corbyn was close to winning an election in 2017, and if without the attacks he had, I think probably would have won the 2019 election. And that was. And the attack then was, we know it was the smear of anti-Semitism, and also Brexit. But I think the anti-Semitism played a massive part. A total lie, borne out by all aspects of the state, from the BBC to the far-right press. It was all you heard, and in the end, the mud stuck, and devastating for Jeremy, and effective. And again, there was no international support, really. A failure of the left in Britain to have an international supporting mechanism that would come to our aid. In fact, we go to Europe and people didn't know what was going on at all. So given that, the question that we have to ask, and which again we really had discussed, is how do we defend ourselves? If it is not just a smear, if it's not racism, they will try to destroy the economy, and it will be it's an extraordinary difficult situation, and that is a question we have to answer, because if we don't do that, we can't win. We have to have a people's movement across the country where the people themselves are committed, and also we have to have international support that will support us. And again, where do we find that? But we have to build it. We sing the International. Let's make internationalism a fundamental demand of our politics. And the other thing is we must not split. We have to be united on our basic principles. We have to be united. If we wanted a clear example of the stupidity of splits, well, we've just had it, haven't we, in the new party? And it's, sometimes you have splits that are on a heroic, epic scale. This is a split more to Laurel and Hardy than any serious split before. It's childish, stupid, and it totally ignores the great political responsibility there is at the moment to fight back on a socialist platform, a socialist program, socialist principles, because that is the only way, and I'm sure you're hearing this over the weekend, that is the only way we can solve the great problems that confront us. Anyway, to the film, a few words about it. Jim Allen wrote it. Jim was an extraordinary writer. He was a working class man from Manchester. He'd been a dock worker, a mine worker, and a brick and a building worker. And he joined building sites to organise for the union, and then get thrown off and go and join another site. He ran a paper when he was a miner called the Mine Worker. He was a traditional organizer, and he began to write. Brilliant, wonderful writer. He could write political dialogue like no one else because he'd lived it. Everybody spoke, whatever the characters, they always spoke in Manchester language, but nevertheless, it had a richness and a truth and a subtlety that was nuanced, that was brilliant. He always carried a plastic carrier bag because it was just easier than a briefcase. He said he didn't want that. Yeah, he was a man with a plastic bag. He took it to Cannes. We managed to keep it off the red carpet, but he always had a plastic bag. Great man. And we chose, we talked about Spain for a long time, and we chose this split to make the film about because, as Jim would said many times, the great problem was the leadership of the working class. We have the strength, we have the capacity, but we don't have the central leadership that will take us forward. It's like steam from a kettle. If it's not driving anything, it disappears into the air. So that was our story. Rebecca O'Brien, the producer, and I went to Barcelona and stood in the streets, and we thought, how two English people who don't know, well, English and one Scots, who don't know Spanish, how are we going to make this? And we thought, this is too great a task. And people told us, oh, nobody will want to talk about it. Nobody will want to talk about it. And at first they didn't. But once they started, they talked. And we met people who had still fought them. This was the mid-90s. So it was less 50 odd years ago, well, nearly 60 years. And of course, the young ones were still alive. We met a wonderful woman in the market in Barcelona who was still angry that when the women were fighting, They were then taken out of the front line and told to make the tea and taken their guns away. And still furious when they took their guns away. And then a great man, Van Rockefeller, who had been with the Revolutionary Socialists, the POOM, the Workers' Party, and he had he had been present in some of the scenes that we did, and we took some of the Jim wrote some of the scenes that he had experienced, particularly the scene towards the end, which he watched, and it's a sad scene, and he was weeping when he saw it. In fact, we were all deeply moved, and um, anyway, and then the interesting thing was the young people. We cast the young people, obviously from Spain. There's some actors, some just political youngsters, and well, not so many political youngsters, mainly actors, and they didn't know the story. This was extraordinary. They knew the story of the International Brigade. They did not know the story of the split and the role of the Communist Party. And that was not part of what was taught. and and then the we filmed we shot the film in sequence. Many of it is surprises to the actors there because they didn't know what was going to happen. And again, one of the girls, one of the young women, I should say, gets shot, and I didn't tell her until the last minute. And I said, "Look, I'm sorry, so and so, you've got to die." And she said, "I don't want to die." And I said, "Well, I'm sorry, it's in the story." But it was they absorbed the story so much it became a personal it became very personal to them and very moving, and it was an extraordinary film to make. When it was shown, we got a lot of hostility from the Communist Party, as you'd expect, and but it played very well in France particularly and across Europe, and there was one funny thing happened right at the end when it went to Cannes Film Festival, and the militia from the film came and were a great presence. The screening went well, and they kept saying, "Oh, you must, you'll do well here. You'll do well." And when they announced if you get a prize, you have to go back on the plane on the Saturday or the Sunday morning, and we got we were told you get on the plane. So Rebecca and I and Leslie, my wife, we got on the plane to go back to Cannes. We thought, my God, we've won something. And then the announcement came over the plane. Will Ms. O'Brien and Mr. and Mrs. Loach please leave the plane? Leave the plane. And we were escorted from the plane, feeling in some rather shameful way. And it turned out, we discovered later, that there was to have been something, but there was a Stalinist from, I think it was Mexico, or one of the Latin American countries, who had said, this film is all lies. You cannot give it, you cannot reward it in any way. And the jury were convinced by that because obviously they weren't experts on the Spanish Civil War. And that was the end of that. But by and large, it went okay, and we were lucky. Anyway, I'm sorry, I've spoken far too long, but it's I wish I were there with you. And but traveling is not so easy these days. But I hope the festival goes well. I hope a lot of revolutionaries emerge from it. And thank you for watching the film. And in one of the great cries of Spanish Civil War, no pasaran, no pasaran. Solidarity, folks.